Did you know the story of the Axe murder house? 8 people were murdered in this house without a single scream being heard, and the person who did it was never caught. Most houses remember the people who lived in them. This one remembers how they died. The house sits quietly on a residential street in Villisca, Iowa. White siding, a porch that creaks when you step on it. From the outside, it looks like the kind of place you'd pass every day without a second thought. But on the night of June 9, 1912, something entered that home and left behind one of the most disturbing unsolved crimes in American history. And over a century later, no one really believes it ever left. On that night, the Moore family had just returned from church. Josiah Moore, his wife Sarah, their 4 children, and 2 visiting friends of the family settled in for the evening. The house went quiet sometime after midnight. There were no signs of struggle, no screams reported by neighbors, no broken doors or windows. Yet by morning, 8 people were dead. When the bodies were discovered, investigators realized something immediately felt wrong. The killer hadn't rushed. The murders were carried out carefully, methodically, room by room. An axe owned by the Moore family was used, but not the blade. The blunt side, as if the killer wanted silence more than speed. Even stranger were the details left behind. Every mirror in the house had been covered with cloth. Curtains were pulled shut. Lamps were turned down low. A slab of meat was left on the floor beside the axe, as if intentionally placed there. The killer had taken time to wash their hands in a basin before leaving. Whoever did this didn't just want the family dead. They wanted control. The town of Villisca was shattered. This wasn't a big city crime that could disappear into statistics. This was a farming community where everyone knew everyone. Suspicion fell quickly, sometimes unfairly. A traveling preacher, a local businessman, a neighbor, even family friends. But no arrests ever stuck. Over time, the case went cold. Files were lost. Evidence mishandled. Witnesses died. And eventually, the story faded into history books and whispered conversations. But the house remained. Years later, new families tried to live there. None stayed long. People complained of footsteps at night, doors opening on their own, children crying in empty rooms. Some said the feeling wasn't fear at first, but sadness, a heavy pressure in the chest, like grief that didn't belong to them. Eventually, the house was turned into a tourist attraction. People came looking for ghosts. I went looking for answers. I didn't expect to feel anything. I'm not someone who believes easily. I went because I wanted to understand why this house still unsettles people more than a century later. Why even skeptics leave early. Why no one ever stays overnight more than once. The moment I stepped inside, the air felt different. Not cold, just dense. Like sound didn't travel the way it should. The floors creaked under my weight, louder than expected. Like the house wanted me to know it was aware of me. The guide showed me each room. The parents' bedroom, the children's room upstairs, the guest room where the visiting girls slept. He spoke quietly, like raising his voice might disturb something. When he finished, he left me alone. I stood in the children's room longer than I meant to. The windows were small. The light was dim even during the day. I tried to imagine sleeping there, unaware that someone was moving through the house with an axe, one bed at a time. That's when I noticed the mirrors. There aren't many left now, but one still hangs in the hallway. It's old, clouded, and it made me uncomfortable in a way I couldn't explain. I remembered reading how the mirrors were covered after the murders, as if whoever did it didn't want to see themselves, or didn't want something else looking back. That night I stayed. Around midnight, the house went completely silent. No outside noise, no wind, just the faint ticking of an old clock somewhere downstairs. Then I heard footsteps, slow, careful, moving above me. I told myself it was the house settling. Old buildings make noise. That's normal. But these weren't random creaks. They had rhythm. Wait, like someone walking barefoot, deliberately avoiding loose floorboards. I sat up in bed and listened. The footsteps stopped directly above my room. Then came something worse. A soft dragging sound. Not loud, not aggressive, just enough to be unmistakable. Like wood against wood. something heavy being moved slowly across the floor. My chest tightened. I couldn't move. I couldn't even convince myself to turn on the light. Every story I'd ever heard about this place came rushing back at once. Then, from the hallway, I heard it. A quiet exhale. Not a breath. An exhale. Like someone standing just outside the door. Relieved. I don't remember deciding to leave. I just remember being outside, standing on the porch, gasping for air like I'd been underwater. The house behind me was dark. Still. Silent. In the morning, the caretaker asked how my night was. I told him what I heard. He didn't look surprised. Most people hear movement, he said. Some hear breathing. A few hear crying. I asked him if anyone had ever seen anything. He shook his head. Seeing isn't the problem, he said. Feeling is. Before I left, he told me something I hadn't heard before. During the original investigation, authorities believed the killer stayed in the house for hours after the murders. Sitting, waiting, listening. The idea wasn't proven, but it was never ruled out either. That's what unsettled me the most. Not the axe, not the ghost. The thought that whoever did this wasn't in a hurry to leave. Even now, the Villisca Axe Murder House stands quietly, preserved in time. People still visit. Some leave shaken. Some leave early. Some leave convinced the house is haunted. But whether you believe in ghosts or not, one thing is undeniable. 8 people were murdered there in silence. The killer was never caught. And the house remembers. Because some places don't need to be haunted. What happened there is enough. Even today, no one knows who committed the Villisca Axe murders. No one knows how the killer entered, or how they left. The house still stands. The rooms are the same size. The floorboards still creak in the same places. And if the stories are true, the house isn't empty when the lights go out. If you want more true horror stories like this, stories that never really end, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next story might be even closer to home.